Great pick. The Chicago Bears are up. They have offensive line issues, and that's been well documented. But is there really a tackle here that is Mike Adams really the tackle that I want to go with here? That's a big question. They could always use the number 2 wide receiver. Kendall Wright's still available, as well as several others. And with Johnny Knox coming off of back surgery, that's a big question as well. They do need some more interior defensive linemen. So Michael Brockers and Devon Still are still also real possibilities here. And so with this pick, I think I'm going to go with Michael Brockers, the defensive tackle from LSU. He's fallen enough, and this is still quite a big need. I think the addition of Brandon Marshall will keep the wide receiver coach a little bit happy at this point. So I think Brockers to really man up that defense is where they go here.
All right. Well, next up on the clock is the Tennessee Titans, and I'm running to the podium here because I know that the guy I'm about to select would not have lasted 3 more picks. Tennessee has a huge hole there to fill at the number 1 cornerback position, as they did not re-sign Cortland Finnegan. He's moved on to a lucrative contract with the St. Louis Rams. As the Titans, I'm playing in the same division with the Houston Texans, who are now the team to beat. I got to have somebody who's going to be able to match up on a big, physical, talented wide receiver like Andre Johnson. So with that said, I'm bringing in a big, physical, talented, fast guy who played in a tough division, the SEC. I'm bringing in Dre Kirkpatrick, the talented corner from Alabama, to help shore up that secondary with the missing piece of Cortland Finnegan. So Tennessee Titans selects Dre Kirkpatrick of Alabama.
All right, I'm back with the Cincinnati Bengals at 21. Kendall Wright's still available. This is a guy I'd really like to throw into this organization, but I also might want to take a look at cornerback as well. It is a hard decision. I'm going to make the move, and I'm going to make a little bit of a shocking pick. I'm going to bypass Janoris Jenkins due to his character issues, and I'm going to go with somebody who might be just as talented and maybe possibly in the real thing go a little bit higher. I'm going with Stephen Gilmore, the cornerback out of South Carolina.
All right, interesting pick. I am next on the clock as Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns, as we've talked about, need playmakers. With my number 4 overall selection, I took Trent Richardson. I do have a few needs here. I could look to shore up the interior offensive line to help protect my quarterback. I could also use a pass rusher, a weak outside linebacker, a really go get after it kind of guy. That's something that I'm lacking. I could also use a middle linebacker. I feel like, Luke Kluwe has fell a ton further than he should, but this is the way it has played out. So I could use that key cog to kind of shore up the middle there. I could also go after Kendall Wright right here and give my young quarterback another weapon opposite Greg Little to really stretch the field and give him some weapons. But ultimately, in the scenario we've been given, as much sense as a Kendall Wright makes here, I think that if you have a chance to really cement a middle linebacker, a leader of the defense for the next 10 years, a talented tackler, a sure tackler, you got to go get him, especially in a division like that where you face Baltimore and you face Pittsburgh 4 times a year, essentially, between the two teams. So with that said, I need to be able to compete and beat the teams in my division. So I'm going with Luke Kluwe, the linebacker from Boston College.
Well, at the 23 overall pick, I am my very own Detroit Lions, and the Lions have one major need, and they don't need choir boys on their defense. I think that's been pretty well established. They have one major need, one great player sitting there, and really no offensive lineman outside of Mike Adams to really be accounted for here. So for me, this is a slam dunk pick. They're not even going to take calls. With the 23 overall pick, the Detroit Lions are going to take Janoris Jenkins. the cornerback out of the University of North Alabama.
All right, interesting pick. I like it, and I agree with you, especially with the recent run. 24 on Pittsburgh. There's a couple guys here that I have to consider. Pittsburgh needs. I feel like Pittsburgh needs help probably on defense more than offense. Although Mike Adams has to get consideration here, but I don't think he'll get serious consideration. He's just not that physical guy that the Steelers look to. I think Kobe Fleener is a serious possibility after running a 4.46 in his pro day. Giving Big Ben a talented receiving threat like a Kobe Fleener makes sense, especially when you've seen how well Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez has made sense. Miller is much more of a blocking tight end. He's a good receiver, but he's not going to get any kind of separation. This team is going to have to play a little bit closer to the vest this year. I also when I'm looking here for Pittsburgh, I'm also considering I got to be considering this defensive line, and I start thinking about some of the defensive tackles possibly, that are on the board. Obviously, Fletcher Cox gone. Obviously, Michael Brocker's gone. Obviously, Dontario Poe gone. But Devon Still is still there, and I think Devon Still and a Whitney Marcellus is probably the two remaining defensive ends / 5 techniques guys, maybe with an Andre Branch that can be considered here in the first round, seriously. And I think Pittsburgh needs defensive line help that bad. And for that, I got to go with the Penn State guy. He's got to get the nod here. So with that said, Pittsburgh's going to help to shore back up that run defense and take Devon Still, the defensive end / defensive tackle from Penn State.
The Denver Broncos are reeling. They had the cards filled out. They were just sitting there waiting for the pick to be made to hand it in. But you took the guy they wanted. Now they're really kind of in scramble mode. They spent a lot of free agent capital on wide receivers and tight ends to keep Peyton Manning happy. So I think that's off the board. They could maybe use an interior offensive lineman, but Cordry Glenn and DeCastro are both off the board, and there's not another guard that's really worthy of the pick. So where do they go from here? They could look at a running back and potentially go in that sense, but I just don't see that as a possibility. They could. Do I go for Donta Hightower here? I don't really like the fit in a 4-3 that we're currently running here in Denver. So so I'm going to go with a kind of a curveball here. I'm going to go with Kendall Reyes, the defensive tackle out of UConn. It's a major position that they have a major need at. That is the defensive tackle position. This could really help Von Miller as well as Elvis Dumerville solidify the pass rush if they get another guy who can do it all. And Kendall Reyes has really had a stock explosion. And that's where I think we're going to go here.
All right, so we're gonna kind of go rapid fire here, James. Kind of give one or two sentences in the pick. At 26, Houston needs a serious playmaking threat opposite Andre Johnson. I mean, they could look to defense. There's definitely some positions of need there. They could definitely help to bolster that pass rush with a guy like Whitney Marcellus or an Andre Branch. But I'm going with Kendall Wright, wide receiver from Baylor. I think he steps in from day one and is a starter and will help to bolster that passing attack. So Houston goes with Kendall Wright, the wide receiver from Baylor.
All right, the New England Patriots have a lot of a few needs. They need a pass rusher and they need secondary help. I think they're going to go Mark Barron here with how the board stacked up, and they're really going to be working on defense from this point out. I think that's where they go.
All right, interesting pick. At number 28, Green Bay Packers are sitting here trying to figure out which direction they should go. They did lose Scott Wells, their center, and to me, this is the perfect time to address that interior offensive line. They got basically Aaron Rodgers almost killed. I'm not liking Adams for this fit. He is a cold weather guy, but I think there's a cold weather guy that makes more sense that, oh, by the way, is from the state of Wisconsin. So I'm going with Peter Kahns, the talented center/guard from Wisconsin.
Bastard. Okay. With that, this is going to be difficult to do on the fly. Right now I'm looking for best player available for the Baltimore Ravens. It's how they always go. Peter Kahns is usually that guy. Nick Perry's taken. So I'm going to go with Donta Hightower, the inside linebacker from Alabama. Right now they're going to need a passing of the guard from Ray Lewis to this next guy. They're going to need a guy with a lot of leadership qualities who's going to be able to learn over the year and really take over when in fact Ray hangs it up probably after next season. So with this pick, they're going to go after Donta Hightower as the best player available.
All right, San Francisco 49ers, they really only have one serious need that is not depth, that is a starting position, and that's right guard. Currently they have a fifth-round pick from last year, Kevin Peterson, slated in there, or Kevin Kilgroy as the starter at right guard. So we need some competition in there. I'm not satisfied with that. I'd like some more playmakers, but I have a ton of playmakers at this point on offense. I'm returning all 11 starters on defense. So I'm bringing in an offensive guard to compete for that spot, and I believe this guy can actually win that spot. I'm going with Kevin Zeter, the offensive guard from Wisconsin. He brings toughness, nastiness, something that I like in my power run offense. I'm going with Kevin Zeter, offensive guard from Wisconsin, for the San Francisco 49ers at 30.
All right, at 31, I'm the New England Patriots. There's two positions I'm looking at. I'm looking at running back because there's a lot of great value at this position, and we also just let go of Benjaris Green-Ellis. There's also the position of pass rusher. This is something they've greatly needed. And I think the well's pretty much dried up at the 3-4 defensive end prospects. So I believe I'm going to go with Whitney Marcellus, the defensive end, offensive linebacker, could possibly play a 5-tech from Illinois as the pick here. They just need it way too bad. Andre Branch was also a high consideration at this pick. It's going to be basically who they like better of those two.
All right, and with the last pick of the mock draft here, I am the Super Bowl champion New York Giants. Excuse me, I'm getting flabbergasted there. I've got a couple needs here. Offensive line is definitely an issue here. Mike Adams is getting strong consideration here. I could use a middle linebacker, but the problem is there's not one that warrants the pick. I could also use a corner, but I'm going to give you a curveball. After seeing all the success that many teams have had with the two tight end wide receiver sets, after the fact that the New York Giants had not one but two tight ends go down with ACL injuries, and neither one of them are ready yet, being Jake Ballard and Travis Beckham, and how successful and what an accomplished receiver this guy is. As the New York Giants, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball here. Not many people are expecting this, but I'm going to go with Kobe Fleener, the talented tight end from Stanford, as my selection to help bolster that offense even a little bit more, and also add an additional blocker there in the running game. That is our 32 picks. James, our first round is complete. We did run a couple minutes over. Wanted to say thank you very much for joining me here on air. Definitely check NFLDraftCountdown.com. Go in there, go into the mock draft section. You'll see 5 rounds in 5 days.